Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Regina podcast, where we talk about transforming your plate and transforming your life. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Regina, a certified nutrition coach, wife, mom of 4 adult children, and someone who has learned over the years that sometimes our bodies are trying to tell us something long before we realize it. Today's episode is one that I think so many people need to hear because I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with clients who tell me things like, I'm eating healthier, I'm exercising, I'm really trying, I'm doing everything I know how to do. And then almost in the same breath, they say, but I'm exhausted. My sleep is terrible. I crave sugar all the time. I feel inflamed and I feel stuck. And I want you to know today is that those things may not all be separate problems. In many cases, they're very connected. And one of the missing pieces might be stress. Not because stress is making you weak, not because stress means you're failing, not because stress automatically causes weight gain, but because stress changes what happens inside the body. And if we don't understand that physiology, it's easy to assume that we simply need more discipline. Today, we're going to talk about what stress actually does inside your body. We're going to talk about cortisol, sleep, cravings, inflammation, weight loss resistance, recovery, and most importantly, what we can do about it. Because this isn't just an episode about fear, it's an episode about understanding, and understanding creates hope. So let's get into it. One thing I have realized as I have gotten older is that stress never really disappears. It just changes shape. When my children were very young, stress looked like sports schedules, school activities, driving everyone everywhere, and trying to keep all the pieces moving and keeping life put together. Then there were seasons of my own health challenges, surgeries, recovery, learning that my body wasn't invincible. More recently, my husband had surgery and won't be able to drive for a few months. Now, I genuinely consider it a privilege to care for him. I love him very much. This is part of the commitment we made to each other. But if we're being honest, even good things can create stress. More responsibility, more logistics, more things to coordinate, more mental load. Then there's another season I've been navigating lately, becoming an empty nester, which is beautiful and exciting and strange all at the same time. One day your house is loud and full of activity, and the next day it's bizarrely quiet. And while there's tremendous joy in seeing your children grow into adulthood, and I'm truly amazed by my children every day, there's also an adjustment that comes with it. What I've learned through all of these seasons is that stress isn't always caused by bad things. Sometimes stress is simply the result of carrying things that matter very deeply to us. The challenge comes when we carry them for so long that we stop noticing what they're doing to our bodies. For me, one of the first signs is sleep. Sleep is almost always my first clue that something's going on. Maybe you've experienced this too. You're exhausted, you know you're tired, you finally crawl into bed, and suddenly your brain decides it's the perfect time to review every problem, every conversation, every responsibility, and every future possibility that exists of everything that's going on in your life. You know exactly what I'm talking about. For years, I kind of thought that was normal. It's just part of life. It's just part of being busy. But eventually I realized that my body was trying to tell me something. And understanding that changed everything. So let me explain. Imagine for a moment, if you will, that a tiger walked into the room. First of all, we'd have much bigger problems than this podcast. But what would happen? Within seconds, your brain would recognize danger. Your adrenal glands would begin releasing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate would increase. Your breathing would become faster. Blood sugar would rise. Your energy would become available because you would need it. for whatever is going to happen next. Your alertness would increase. Every single one of those changes would happen because your body is trying to keep you alive. Cortisol is not bad. In fact, cortisol is essential. Without it, we could not survive. So the problem isn't cortisol, and I know we hear a lot about cortisol and, oh my gosh, get that cortisol down and cortisol belly and everything. But cortisol is a hormone. Our bodies use it. It's when there's too much of it that it becomes a problem, or when the body believes that the emergency never ends. So you're at a heightened state of stress. Research actually has shown that chronic psychological stress activates many of the same physiological pathways that physical danger activates. So think about that for a moment. Your body is responding the same to your daily stress and workload as it would be if you were in a life-threatening situation. And the problem with that is today's stress rarely leaves. They're not tigers. They're emails and deadlines and caregiving and health concerns and financial pressures, relationship challenges, constant notifications on our phones, a schedule that never seems to stop. And while those things might not be life-threatening, the body often responds if they are. And that's where the trouble begins. Because once stress stays elevated for too long or long enough, it starts creating a ripple effect through the whole body. And this is where many people begin feeling stuck. So one thing I wish more people understood is that the body experiences health as a connected system. We tend to separate everything. Sleep over here, cravings over there, weight over there, energy over there, inflammation all on its own. But the body doesn't operate in isolated compartments. Everything in our body is connected. And we've talked about that before on several of the previous podcasts about how our gut health affects our brain health and how that affects our heart health. And it's all so interwoven. It's actually really incredible if you think about it. So let's start with sleep, because sleep is often where the dominoes begin to fall. When stress remains elevated, the nervous system stays more alert, more vigilant, more prepared for action. You're at a heightened level of alertness just in case something happens, which is going to make it harder to sleep. It's going to make it harder to fall asleep. It's going to make it harder to stay asleep and get restorative deep sleep. And when your sleep begins to suffer, a chain reaction often follows. So research has shown that even short periods of sleep deprivation can reduce insulin sensitivity and affect appetite regulating hormones. So think about that for a second. One poor night of sleep, and we talked about this in our nighttime routine podcast too. So one poor night of sleep can literally change how your body responds to food the next day. What? That's crazy, but it's true. So no wonder you're craving sugar. No wonder caffeine sounds like a great idea. No wonder you're hungry even when you've just eaten. That's not a character flaw. That's physiology. Then the brain starts looking for relief. And here's where things really get interesting. Because the brain doesn't necessarily ask for nourishment. It asks for relief. Quick energy, comfort, reward, something that feels good, makes you happy. And that's often where stress eating enters the picture. Not because someone lacks discipline, but because their nervous system is looking for comfort. Food can be comforting. Food can be emotional. Food is tied to many of our memories and experiences. So, of course, it becomes part of how we cope with stress. So the challenge here is that food can temporarily soothe stress without actually resolving it. And that can create a frustrating cycle. When we do that, and then inflammation enters the picture next. And I know this one personally because inflammation is one of my body's favorite ways of getting my attention. When stress has been high for too long, I feel it. I feel puffier, more swollen, less resilient. My joints hurt. Sometimes I feel like I hurt down into my bones. And research consistently links chronic stress with elevated inflammatory activity in the body. And inflammation doesn't just affect how we feel, affects our energy, our mood, our recovery, our hormones, and sometimes our ability to progress towards healthy goals. Our body is not trying to sabotage us on purpose, it's trying to survive. And surviving requires different priorities than thriving. And I want all of you guys to thrive and feel good every day. So the body whispers before it screams. And this may be one of the most important lessons I've learned because it starts small. You feel a little more tired, a little less patient, a little more inflamed. Your sleep's not going so well. You're kind of grouchy sometimes. And if we listen, we can often make adjustments. But if we keep pushing, keep overriding those signals, we keep telling ourselves that we'll rest later, or, there's too much to do, eventually our body's going to get louder. And I've experienced this firsthand. There have been absolutely crazy seasons of my life where I ignored my body's signals. I kept going. I kept pushing. I kept trying to power through. And eventually my body makes the decision for me. Illness, exhaustion, the kind of depletion where you physically cannot keep operating at the same pace. And looking back, the signs were there all along. I just wasn't listening. And honestly, I think many of us can relate to that because our culture celebrates pushing, grinding, being available all the time. We have cell phones now in our pocket that go everywhere we go. And our availability is now 24/7, 365. And that is stressful. That every single person in our life has constant access to us. Our bodies were never designed to live that way indefinitely. So I want you to hear this. Recovery is not laziness. For years, I think I viewed rest as something I would earn after everything was finished. The problem is nothing is ever finished. It just keeps going day after day. There's always another email, another project, another responsibility, another person who needs something. And eventually I realized that if I waited until life became calm to rest, I would never, ever rest. And that's when I started viewing recovery a little bit different. Recovery is not a reward. It's a necessity. The body repairs during recovery. The brain resets during recovery. Hormones regulate during recovery. Muscles recover during recovery. Recovery is not wasted time. It's vital. It is where some of the most important work happens. And once I began looking at it that way, it became easier to prioritize. Now, you may be thinking, okay, Regina, I understand all of this, but what do I actually do? And honestly, I love that question because the answer is not eliminating stress. Life is not going to stop lifing. The goal is helping our body feel safe enough to recover. And I've learned that the nervous system responds beautifully to simple, consistent signals. Things like stepping outside in the morning sunlight. Now that it's getting nice and warmer, I love sitting out on my back deck and having my morning coffee. It just brings me such a peace and a joy. So if you have something in the morning that does that for you, do it. Make it a priority. Put it on your list if you need to. Going for a walk. sitting quietly with a cup of coffee, prayer in the morning, deep breathing, journaling. We all have different things that kind of feed our energy and our soul, like in that way. Listening to music. Let's discover what that is and incorporate more of that into our life. None of these things are magic, but they are all signals that tell the body you are safe, the emergency is over, you can relax now. One of my favorite nervous system resets is simply walking, especially outdoors. And I'm not like walking at a fast, brisk pace, but going to a park with my husband and just taking in nature always makes me feel better. It doesn't have to be a huge calorie burner, because I always feel different afterwards, depending on the situation or what I'm dealing with in my life or where we are, and if it's morning or evening, or even something as simple as just being outside in my backyard tells my body it's safe, and it helps kind of center me and reset me. All the problems I'm carrying still exist, but somehow I feel lighter. My shoulders aren't as tense. My thoughts feel clearer. My breathing slows down. And there's research that supports this. Walking has been shown to improve mood, reduce stress, support blood sugar regulation, and improve overall well-being. So even if you don't have a regular exercise routine, maybe just a 10-minute walk in the evening to the end of the block and back or whatever. I mean, start small. Every little bit helps, and nothing is wasted or too small. Sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful tools we have. Another thing I've noticed is that stressful seasons often cause people to stop feeding themselves well. I mean, let's be honest. Life gets busy. You're running around all the time. You're running late in the morning. You skip breakfast. Lunch becomes an afterthought. Coffee becomes a meal. You drive through somewhere and pick up chicken nuggets and French fries. And then you stand in your pantry in the evening, wondering why everything you're craving is looking at you in the face. Does that sound familiar? I always remind clients that stressful seasons are not a time to nourish yourself less. They're a time to be more intentional with how you're nourishing your body, because your body is spending resources managing stress. And that means it needs resources coming in. Think about a simple smoothie: Greek yogurt or protein powder, berries, spinach, chia seeds. That's not just a smoothie. That's protein, fiber, antioxidants, healthy fats, and nutrients that help support stable energy. Or a simple snack plate with berries and walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and a little dark chocolate for a little treat for yourself. Or you can do a lunch bowl with protein, vegetables, healthy fats, and fiber. I love like turkey burrito bowls, or salmon bowls are fantastic too, because you're getting those healthy omega-3s in. None of these things are complicated, but they send a message to the body that says, I've got you. I'm supporting you. I'm nourishing you. And honestly, I think that's something many of us need to hear. So, one thing I've noticed about myself over the years is that I can be incredibly good at caring for other people. Maybe you can relate. I can show up, I can help, I can support, I can encourage, I can serve. For a long time, I struggled to extend that same level of care to myself, not in a selfish way, in a stewardship way. Because if I'm honest, there were seasons where I treated my body more like a machine than a gift. I expected it to keep going, regardless of how little sleep I got, how stressed I was, how depleted I felt. Eventually, I realized that good stewardship of my body means caring for it because God entrusted it to me. Not obsessing over it, not punishing it, but caring for it in a loving, nurturing way. Sometimes stewardship of our bodies looks like eating well. Sometimes it looks like movement. Sometimes it looks like sleep. Sometimes it looks like saying no and setting those boundaries. Sometimes, and I know this is hard for a lot of people, but it looks like asking for help. Sometimes it looks like surrendering things that were never ours to carry alone. And honestly, I really do feel like many of us are carrying far more than God ever intended us to carry by ourselves. So if this episode resonated with you, helped you understand your body a little better, or encouraged you in a stressful season, please share it with someone who could benefit from it too. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode going forward. We drop new episodes every Tuesday at 11 a.m. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Nourish with Regina, where I share practical nutrition tips, healthy recipes, encouragement, and realistic strategies to help you feel your best. If you're looking for additional support this summer, I would love for you to join me in my upcoming group coaching program called Savor Summer. Eat well, feel good, and enjoy life. We're starting that June 8th. We'll spend 4 weeks focusing on nourishing habits, simple nutrition strategies, energy, consistency, and learning how to enjoy summer while still supporting our health goals. You can learn more about all of my coaching options at www.nourishwithregina.com. And next week, we're talking about one of the simplest yet most powerful nutrition strategies you can implement immediately. We're calling it Eat This First, the simplest way to balance your blood sugar. We'll discuss why food order matters, how protein and fiber can dramatically impact your cravings and energy, and simple ways to support blood sugar without overcomplicating your life. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. I appreciate you. And until next time, keep nourishing your body one simple choice at a time.